My name is Sarah, and this is the story of one movie night that turned my whole world upside down. I was 26, single for what felt like forever, and honestly okay with it, or so I thought. I had my cozy apartment, my job at the little bookstore downtown, and my cat, Muffin, who greeted me every evening with a soft purr. Life was simple, quiet, predictable. Until that one Friday night when my father-in-law, Mr. Thompson, or Tom, as he kept insisting I call him, invited me over for a movie. Let me back up a little. My late husband, Gaius, had passed away 3 years earlier in a car accident. He was only 28. We'd been married for 2 years, high school sweethearts who thought we had forever. After he was gone, I moved into a small place near his parents, because they were the only family I had left. Gaius's mom, Linda, became like a second mother to me, and Tom, well, Tom was the strong, silent type. A retired mechanic with rough hands and kind eyes. He checked my car tires, fixed my leaky faucet, and always had a dad joke ready, even if it made me groan. That Friday, Linda was out of town visiting her sister. Tom texted me in his usual short way, movie night. Popcorn's on me. Bring your fuzzy socks. I smiled at my phone. It sounded nice. I'd been working late shifts all week, and the idea of sinking into their big couch, with a bowl of buttery popcorn, and some old comedy sounded perfect. I showed up around 7, still in my bookstore sweater and jeans, hair in a messy bun. Tom opened the door with a grin. "There's my favorite daughter-in-law," he said, pulling me into a quick hug. He smelled like soap and the garage, oil and metal, even though he'd been retired for years. "Only daughter-in-law," I teased, kicking off my shoes. The living room was warm, the way it always was. The same plaid couch Gaius and I used to fight over the remote on. The big TV Tom had splurged on last Christmas. A bowl of popcorn sat on the coffee table, steam rising from it. He'd even made cocoa, my favorite, with extra marshmallows. "What are we watching?" I asked, flopping onto the couch and tucking my feet under me. "Thought would go classic," he said, holding up a DVD case. "The Princess Bride." My heart did a little flip. Gaius and I had watched it 100 times. It was our movie. I swallowed hard. Perfect. We settled in. Tom sat in his recliner, I took the couch. The opening credits rolled, and for a while, it was easy. We laughed at the same parts: Inigo's revenge speech, the Rouses, Wesley's As You Wish. I quoted half the lines under my breath. Tom chuckled every time, but halfway through, I noticed he wasn't laughing as much. He kept glancing at me, then back at the screen. When the movie ended and the credits rolled, he didn't move to turn it off. Just sat there, staring at the screen like it held some secret. "You okay, Tom?" I asked softly. He rubbed the back of his neck. A nervous habit I'd seen Gaius do 1,000 times. "Sarah, can I talk to you about something?" My stomach tightened. "Of course." He muted the TV. The room felt too quiet. "You know I think of you like my own kid. Always have. Even before Gaius, well. Your family." I nodded. "You and Linda are the best." He took a deep breath. "I've been watching you these past 3 years. You smile, you laugh, you work hard. But you're alone. And I hate it." I shifted. "I'm okay, Tom." "Really? I have Muffin. My friends. Work." "You're 26, he said gently. "You should be out there. Dating. Laughing with someone who looks at you like you hung the moon. Like Gaius did." My throat got tight. "I don't know if I'm ready." "I know." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "But I've got a friend. Mark. You've met him, tall guy, grey at the temples, owns the hardware store on Main. I blinked. Mark. Yeah, I remembered him. Nice guy. Divorced. Always helped me find the right screws when I was attempting DIY disasters. Tom kept going. He's a good man, Sarah. Lost his wife 5 years ago. Raised his daughter alone. He's kind. Funny, doesn't drink too much, doesn't smoke. Goes to church on Sundays, but not the pushy kind. He asked about you. I stared at him. He what? Said he saw you at the store last month, helping that kid pick out a book. Said you had the prettiest smile he'd seen in years. Tom's cheeks went pink. I told him you were family. But then I got to thinking, maybe you could meet him. Just coffee. No pressure. I opened my mouth, then closed it. My brain was spinning. Tom, I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything tonight, he said quickly. Just think about it. I'm not trying to push. I see you fading a little, kid. And it breaks my heart. I looked down at my hands. They were shaking. I'm not fading. You are, he said softly. You light up when you talk about books or muffin, or that time you helped Mrs. Chen find her cat. But the rest of the time, you're just going through the motions. Gaius wouldn't want that. The mention of Gaius hit me like a punch. I felt tears prick my eyes. I miss him every day. I know. Tom's voice cracked. I miss my boy too. But he'd want you happy. Not stuck. I wiped my eyes with my sleeve. And you think Mark could? I think is a start, Tom said. One coffee. If you hate it, you never have to see him again. But if you don't try, you'll never know. I laughed, but it came out wet. You're really selling this? He grinned. I'm a dad. It's my job. We sat in silence for a minute. The popcorn had gone cold. Outside, crickets chirped. Finally, I said, okay. His eyebrows shot up. Okay. One coffee. But you're buying. He laughed, a big, relieved sound. Deal. I left that night with my head spinning. One movie night, and suddenly I had a date. With my father-in-law's friend. Life was weird. The coffee was set for the following Saturday, at Brood Awakening, the little cafe near the bookstore. I spent the week panicking in tiny ways, trying on outfits and hating them all, texting my best friend Mia for advice, staring at my closet like it had betrayed me. Saturday came too fast. I wore a simple green sweater and jeans, hair down for once. Mark was already there when I walked in, standing by a corner table with 2 mugs. He smiled when he saw me, nervous, but warm. Sarah, he said, pulling out my chair. You look great. Thanks, I said, sitting. My voice sounded higher than usual. You too. He laughed. Tom warned me you'd be polite even if I spilled coffee on myself. I grinned. He knows me well. We talked. And talked. About books, he loved mysteries, I loved romance. About his daughter, Lily, who was away at college. About my job, how I once spent an hour helping a guy find a book he only remembered had a blue cover. He laughed so hard he snorted, then apologized. I told him it was cute. 2 hours later, the cafe was closing. We'd finished our coffees and split a blueberry muffin. My cheeks hurt from smiling. This was nice, I said as we stood outside. It was, he agreed. Can I walk you to your car? I nodded. We walked slow. At my car, he hesitated. I'd like to do this again, he said. If you want. I looked up at him. His eyes were kind. Steady. Not Gaius's eyes, but good eyes. Yeah, I said. I'd like that. He smiled, big and real. Great. I'll call you. He did. 2 days later. We went to dinner. Then a walk in the park. Then a movie, The Princess Bride again, because he said he'd never seen it. I quoted every line. He laughed every time. Tom checked in like a proud dad. So, how's my matchmaking? I rolled my eyes. You're insufferable. But effective. I couldn't lie. Yeah. Effective. Months passed. Mark and I became us. He met Muffin. I met Lily when she came home for break. We cooked dinner at my place, burned the chicken, ordered pizza instead. He fixed my leaky sink without being asked. I helped him pick out a birthday gift for his mom. That night, 6 months into our story, the air was cool and sweet with the scent of blooming jasmine. Mark and I sat together on the back porch, wrapped in a soft blanket that smelled faintly of coffee and pine. His backyard opened up to a wide stretch of sky, so dark and clear it looked like someone had spilled glitter across black velvet. The crickets sang their steady song, and a distant owl hooted, as if the world itself had paused to listen. Mark had set up his old telescope, the kind with a few scratches on the side and a sticker of Saturn peeling off near the lens. I used to show Lily the stars when she was little, he said, adjusting the knobs with careful fingers. She always thought Orion's belt looked like a snowman's buttons. I smiled, watching him, the way the silver light from the stars brushed across his face. That's cute, I said softly. You're a good dad. He glanced at me and smiled, a small, quiet smile that reached his eyes. You think so? I know so. He looked into the telescope again, then motioned for me to take a look. See that cluster there? That's Orion's belt. I leaned down, peering through the lens. I didn't really know what I was supposed to be looking for, but I gasped anyway. Wow, I whispered. That's beautiful. He chuckled. You're pretending, aren't you? I grinned. Maybe a little. He laughed, a deep, warm sound that melted into the night. Then there was silence. The kind that isn't awkward, but full of something unspoken, something waiting. The crickets grew louder, the stars seemed to lean in closer, and my heart began to beat faster. Sarah, he said finally, his voice quiet but certain. I turned to him. The look in his eyes made my breath catch. Yeah. I need to tell you something, he said. I froze. My fingers tightened around the edge of the blanket. Okay, I whispered. He exhaled, like he'd been holding the words for a long time. I love you. For a heartbeat, the world went still. Even the night air seemed to pause. I stared at him, the words hanging between us like fireflies, soft, glowing, impossible to catch. I love you too, I said, my voice trembling. And I meant it. Every word. Not the way I'd loved Gaius, his love had been bright, wild, and young, like fireworks lighting up the night sky. Mark's love was different. It was steady, like a sunrise you could count on every morning. It was quiet but sure, wrapping around me like warmth after a long winter. It wasn't replacing what I had lost, it was healing what was broken. He smiled then, a slow, beautiful smile, and touched my cheek. You don't know how long I've wanted to tell you that. I laughed softly, tears glinting in my eyes. Maybe I did. He leaned closer, and I met him halfway. The kiss was soft, unhurried, full of everything we hadn't said. It wasn't about sparks, it was about peace. About home. And in that moment, I realized I wasn't afraid anymore. Later, when I told Tom, he cried, actually cried. The kind of tears that come from relief, from love that has carried too much for too long. He hugged me so tight, I could barely breathe. Gaius would be proud, he whispered against my hair. And I cried too. Because deep down, I believed him. A year later, Mark proposed. In the bookstore, of course. The place where my life had always felt safe. He waited until closing time, when the lights were soft and golden and the world smelled faintly of paper and ink. He led me to the aisle between the romance and mystery sections, our aisle, and dropped to one knee. He opened a small velvet box, and inside was a silver ring with a tiny book charm attached. My heart swelled so much it hurt. I wanted to ask, he said, voice trembling, if you'll write the rest of our story with me. I didn't even let him finish. Yes, I whispered, then louder, yes. On our wedding day, the sun poured gold through the church windows. Tom walked me down the aisle, his eyes already glassy with tears. Linda sobbed openly beside him, and Lily stood beside me as maid of honor, beaming. Muffin wore a tiny bow tie, and sat proudly in the front row, tail swishing like he understood it all. When Mark said I do, his voice didn't shake. And for the first time in years, neither did mine. At the reception, Tom pulled me aside. Remember that movie night? I laughed. How could I forget? He smiled through tears. Best night of my life. Gave me my daughter back, and a son. I hugged him, my heart full. Thank you. He winked. Anytime, kid. That was 5 years ago. Now Mark and I have a little girl, Emma Grace. She has my eyes and his laugh, and she thinks the moon follows her wherever she goes. Muffin still rules the house like royalty. Every Friday night, Tom and Linda babysit while Mark and I sneak out for dinner, or sometimes we all stay in and watch movies together. The Princess Bride is Emma's favorite now. She giggles at the same parts her father once did, and every time Wesley says, "As you wish," she whispers it back like a secret spell. Sometimes, after she's asleep and the house is quiet, I sit on the couch and think about that night. That simple movie night that changed everything. How love found its way back to me when I wasn't even looking. How it came not with grand gestures or perfect timing, but with popcorn, cocoa, and a grieving father who refused to let me fade away. Life isn't a movie. But that night, it was the beginning of my happy ending. And it all started with a simple question. Will you marry my friend? I said yes to coffee. And somehow, that became yes to forever.